I believe, right?
Yeah, I think so. That's
Yeah,
what I
so in
had.
2006, there was reports about Robert Thompson that he was in a stable gay relationship
Really?
and was living well in the northwest of England. He appeared to be rehabilitated, and he has never reoffended.
Hmm.
So, but when it comes to Venables, totally different story.
Okay, hold right there for 1 second, because that's
Sure,
really
no problem.
interesting for me. But it made me think of something that I researched. I wasn't going to say it, but
Hmm.
now that you say that Thompson is in like a stable gay relationship, it makes a little bit more
Yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Because one of the injuries that James Bulger suffered or endured was there was like sexual injuries done
right.
to
And I
him.
didn't really see anything in depth about that.
The only thing that I have is that like the foreskin of his penis showed signs of
Oh,
trauma.
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and that he was sexually assaulted, and I guess they didn't want to get too much into that after everything else that was going on in the trial, but during the interrogation, Thompson, when they brought that up to him, Thompson became really distressed and he was screaming at the investigator saying, "I'm not a pervert." But then when they talked to Venables about the same situation,
Hmm.
Venables just came right out and said, "Oh, yeah, Thompson removed his trousers and underwear and then he quote unquote played with his privates." So that's really interesting now, looking
Yeah.
back, now that he's an adult and he's in a gay relationship. He became so upset and said, "I'm not a pervert," but yet back then apparently he is the one that fondled him.
Yeah.
That's a little
But is he the one who crushed his head?
that
Like, I wish we could ever know, but when they interrogated, they just kind of both, they were just like, he hit him in the head first. Well, he hit him in the head first, so we'll just never know.
I know.
And now for a short break.
The State of Logic podcast is like no other. We don't have the same focus as so many other podcasts where we're just me talking about business or politics or whatever. We talk about everything with everyone, intellectuals, comedians, and celebrities alike. Sometimes it's a 20-minute interview. Sometimes it's a 3-hour interview. But at the end of the day, it's a great conversation that we often laugh about and learn something from at the same time. Come check us out at the State of Logic podcast.
So a lot of the cursory information I saw, it just says he was released in 2001. You don't really hear anything else until 2010 when he is rearrested because he has images of child pornography and child abuse on his computer.
Oh my God.
He went back in 2010, okay? And he did about 2.5 years, and they released him again in 2013 with another new identity.
What?
Because while he was incarcerated, either somebody outed him on Facebook, two guys posted pictures of them, of their actual identities. They had somehow figured out who they were, posted pictures of them on Facebook, and those guys got arrested
Oh
because
shit.
it's illegal. So they had to give him another freaking new identity. So he's like 20 something years old, having to learn a whole new false life.
Oh God.
So, okay, so that's 2010 to 2013. So when he first got out, okay, he did have 5 years of intense therapy where he saw his probation officer, I mean, like daily to weekly. They were in very close contact with him. So after that 5-year mark, they started to feel like, oh, he's doing great. So they started to pull back. While they're pulling back, he starts to crumble. And, he just kind of falls into this pit. They put him on a curfew. He's going out. He's starting to do things he shouldn't do. These guys are not allowed back in Merseyside, Liverpool, the area where the killing occurred. But it's a known fact that he admitted he went drinking in a bar there. And one of them had also attended some kind of sporting event nearby. And the crazy thing, too, is that at this point now, 2010, 2013, James Bulger's mom has 3 other sons now that she's had after James has passed away.
She was pregnant with one during the trial, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
she was. And she had a son with James's father. And then, they ended up splitting, just due to all the stress and trauma.
That happens.
Yeah, it
lot.
happens a lot. And she remarried and had 2 more sons. So by the time this comes around, she has one that's a teenager. And she's just scared to death that,
They're going to come back.
well, that they're going to encounter each other and not, her boys aren't going to know that that's him because his identity is secret.
Right.
and if he's hanging around and everything. So anyway, they start to pull back with his support services about 5-6 years after he's released. So he's about 24, 25 now. And that's when he starts, they give him a curfew. So they tell him he's got to be in the house from maybe like 10 p.m. to 6:30. So he's pretty much stuck there. So it doesn't surprise you that he gets into some trouble with the computer.
Right.
So he stays in prison till about 2013, comes back out with another new identity, and they had him in isolation. He was under 24/7 monitored by 2 guards. He had a rowing machine. He was able to paint his cell. He was given private guitar lessons, and all of this 2010 to 2013 incarceration. He's an adult now. It costs taxpayers about £500,000, which I forgot to look up how many dollars that is.
I can look it up while you're talking.
They have put now about £5 million into rehabilitating him. So 2013, he's released again with yet another identity, only to be arrested again this past November of 2017 for the same offense.
It's like $1.4 million in U.S. money.
Yeah, and that was just for his second incarceration, because they had to keep him separate. They had to keep him separate. I don't know if they needed to allow him to learn how to play the guitar.
Yeah, and paint his cell.
yeah, but that's what they did. So it's going on £5 million now. So he was arrested again in November of 2017. They just announced in January of 2018 that they're going to try him in secret in an unnamed court at an unspecified time this year.
Oh, wow. Holy shit.
So that's
Recent.
unprecedented.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. There was about January 8th, I think I saw that they said that they were going to try him. I don't know how that's legal.
Right.
And I don't know how that's really going to pan out, but that's what the Crown Prosecution Service announced.
I was going to say we can do a follow-up episode, but if we don't know where and when, we can't.
Yeah. And the worst part too is this time that he was in prison again, I saw a report that said pretty much every prisoner knows exactly who he is.
Oh, yeah.
So
I can imagine.
That's why. And so they just have to have 3 guards with him all the time. It's just costing more and more and more money.
Wow. So that makes me think a little bit more that Venables was the ringleader, more so than Thompson.
He's definitely more messed up now.
Yeah. Wow.
And I just wonder how much therapy they got in secure lockup.
I was wondering that too.
I didn't see anything about therapeutic services or anything. I didn't see anything about that. It's just hard to know. But did you see anything about the boys who found James Bulger's body? Did you come across any info on that?
No, the only thing that I really came across was the confession from Venables to the investigators. And then, just that when he was in the courtroom, he was saying, can you just please tell her that I'm sorry? Like, I'm really sorry that I did that, blah, blah, blah. But nothing about the actual finding of the body, just about the injuries to the body.
Did you hear that one of them, when they were on the stand, did an imitation of James Bulger crying?
No.
Yeah. I didn't see it or hear it, thank goodness.
That's terrible.
I was going through the trial newspaper footage, just article by article. And so each day of the trial would be highlights,
Mm-hmm.
And the mothers of the boys, Venables and Thompson's mothers, did not ever go to Denise Fergus, James Bulger's mom, and apologize.
Yeah, I knew that.
They just acted really weird around her.
Yep.
And not at all how she said she would act if her son had murdered someone else's baby. I don't know how I would act, but probably not like that.
Yeah, I don't think that I would just not show any ounce of remorse at all like they did. They kind of gave her the cold shoulder, it's, whatever. Just here to get this over with kind of thing. I couldn't do that.
I didn't see anything about any of the parents, anything that happened after that with any of them either.
Me either. I just saw that a couple of them didn't show up. The mom of Bulger didn't show up for a while because she was pregnant. And then the dad of one of the boys, I think he was out of the courtroom a few times.
Yeah, the mom didn't come on the days when they described the injuries.
Okay.
And I guess they didn't even disclose all of the injuries not only in trial or ever to the media, because it was pretty horrifying, and they really just didn't want his family to even have to think about that. They picked and choose what they wanted to highlight in the trial, but consequently, they were only locked up for 8 years. So maybe if everyone knew what really had happened to the child, then they would have gotten a more fitting punishment.
Yeah, I have a magazine here. I actually got it from the UK.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like a real crime magazine or whatever, but they go into a little bit of detail. They said he had 22 bruises, splits, and grazes found on his head, 20 more wounds on his body, less than 2.5 square centimeters large. Others were much bigger. The post-mortem examinations revealed that James had been struck by at least 30 blows, and for a brief period of time he survived his injuries before succumbing to the pain that he was suffering from. Extensive brain damage was evident, including a hemorrhage at the center of his brain, bruising on his right cheek and ear, consistent with a severe blow.
Yeah, consistent of
stomping. Yep.
Which they don't even bring up in trial. So that's one of the things that they don't mention, stomping and kicking.
Yeah, and that's exactly
as far as I saw
what they said in the magazine too. And that kicking and the pattern that was left on him, the tread pattern matched Thompson's boot.
Yep.
And then once,
and we forgot the worst part of how they left him on the train to get run over by the train on purpose.
Yeah,
and they allowed him to be run over by the train.
Yeah, and he was sawn in half, basically, by the train, and they planned it that way so that it would look like he fell on the train track and was killed by accident, which is fucking ridiculous.
Investigators were scarred for life, obviously. But the children who found his body and reported it to police, there was 4 of them, evidently. 2 brothers and 2 of their friends. So the 2 brothers were James and Terrence Riley, and they were 14 and 13 years old in 1993. So they've gone on to have, not the best life. And they continuously say that it's because they're traumatized from finding his body.
Oh my God, I could imagine.
Yeah. And in 2003, their grandmother was interviewed, and she said that them discovering James Bulger's body ripped their entire family apart. They've never spoken about it. James stole a bottle of brandy in 2010, and when he got arrested, it was his 48th criminal conviction, mostly misdemeanors.
Holy shit.
Terrence had done 12 years in prison already. He was the younger of the brothers. He was 13, and he had been involved. He had gone to Amsterdam and had been involved in a $4 million drug conspiracy. He was a drug trafficker. So he did 12 years for trafficking cocaine and stuff. And then when he got out, he led police on a high-speed chase, and he was just so apologetic in court, and they're just freaking traumatized. So traumatized. But at the same time, investigators and everyone said, well, at the time that this happened, we offered counseling and all those kinds of things, but you guys chose to drink.
Jeez.
So that's Britain for you.
You guys chose to drink. There's nothing else we can do.
You guys just chose to drink. And
I mean, I think I would too. I think I would be drinking a whole hell of a lot if I had to stumble upon that.
Yeah, but drink in therapy.
Yeah.
That is the story. And like I said, James Bulger's mom, Denise Fergus, has just released a book called I Let Him Go, and the cover has a picture of a mommy and a baby's hand. Because she's just she literally let his hand go to get the money out of her wallet to pay. Yeah. And that was how long. And then she also said that when she realized he was gone, if she had left the store and turned right instead of turning left, she would have seen them.
Oh my God. So she puts all this blame on herself.
She does. Yep, she really does. I mean, she just can't, of course she can't stop thinking about all the things that, just so many little decisions that could have led to a different outcome. Just turning right instead of left is a matter of life and death. You just don't look at your life on a day-to-day level like that, Exactly. You mentioned something too about not seeing anything where they were given any kind of therapeutic intervention or anything. See, I didn't read anything about that either, other than the fact that when the trial was going on, or just right after, I guess there was a psychiatrist with the Adolescent Forensic Service, and she stated that Venables was incapable of
talking in a meaningful way about his participation in the death, even to her. I
can see that.
And then a second psychiatrist.
Which makes me feel like he did the worst stuff.
That's what I'm thinking. Because he couldn't even form the words. Exactly. And then the second psychiatrist, because I guess they used two for it or whatever to get a different angle or take or whatever, stated that Thompson suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder since the killing. So that